Something occurred to me today when I was looking at some of the Twitter posts about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation, right? I mean, I know now that it's getting into the rearview mirror, we don't talk about it as much, but I still see a lot of people posting about it on Twitter. And, you know, obviously the Amber Heard defenders, they drive me crazy at times, like they drive some of you crazy. But one of the things that I noticed today, I saw that one of the Amber Heard defenders once again was harping on the age difference and the fact that Johnny Depp was so much older and that there was something unseemly, perverse even about a man his age dating a woman her age. They started dating when she was in her 20s, right? And it occurred to me that one of the things that I don't think has gotten enough attention in this situation and in the trial, the defamation trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, is the degree to which ageism was actually used against him, and the degree to which Amber Heard, used the age difference between them as one more sort of emotional tool, one more way to batter him emotionally. People tend to, in relationships where you have an older man and a younger woman, for some reason, our society sees the younger woman as automatically the weaker in that situation, which, as I've said before, is really an infantilization of women. And it's basically taking women's agency away from them to imply that a fully grown, legally adult woman cannot make decisions in the way that a man would. But I want to put that aside. What I thought about today is the degree to which Amber Heard defenders, and even people who are on the fence in this situation, have overlooked all of the abuse that Johnny Depp took because of his age. We have multiple tapes, that some of which were played in trial, of Amber Heard calling him a fat old man, washed up. We also have testimony from people who were close to them indicating that Amber Heard was constantly calling him old and washed up and pointing out the fact that nobody would want to be with him now that he's so over the hill. And it's really infuriating the degree to which these kinds of insults are just sort of shrugged off by a lot of Amber Heard defenders and a lot of the media who were observing this trial. We're supposed to feel so sorry for her because she was this younger woman in this situation with this powerful older man. But what about this man? Should we feel sorry for the fact that he basically, after he fell in love with this woman and hooked up with her, became a kind of a prisoner, under a kind of a house arrest with this lunatic who would freak out if he took a shower for too long or if he was visiting his guy friend down the hall too long, who was constantly berating him, and one of the tools that she constantly berated him with was the age difference. And, I think that if social justice warriors and Amber Heard defenders want to drag out the gender card and the age card, I think they need to face up to the ageism card that Amber Heard played and to the real sort of maligning of Johnny Depp and the emotional destruction of Johnny Depp that Amber Heard engaged in that relationship, part of which was based on this ageism. One of the main tools that she used to berate him psychologically was the idea that he was old and washed up and nobody else would want him. And if you think that that's just no big deal, if you think that that didn't have a real impact on him, or if you think that Amber Heard's youth was not an advantage to her in that relationship, was not a tool of manipulation for her, then you need to grow up. Because people who have some age on them, people who, like me, are entering middle age, or people who are older, understand that one's age, is a real source of vulnerability as one gets older. And I can only imagine that if Johnny Depp were with this beautiful woman, and he was already feeling insecure about getting over the hill, I'm sure that it was devastating to hear her constantly berating him about his age and calling him a fat, washed-up old man. And wasn't that what she told her assistant as well? Didn't Kate James testify at some point in one of the depositions or whatever that when Amber had first told her that she was dating Johnny Depp, she said, basically dismissively, like, he's just an old man. He's just an old man. And we're just supposed to shrug that off. We're just supposed to laugh at that. We're just supposed to think that's funny, right? But we're not supposed to think that sexism is funny. We're not supposed to think that racism is funny. But somehow, this kind of ageism gets the pass, and it gets a pass especially when we're talking about wealthy men or white men. It's almost like that privilege cancels out the other vulnerabilities. Well, it doesn't. And you can be extremely wealthy and you can be extremely powerful and you can still feel very insecure emotionally and sexually about your age. And for her to call Johnny Depp an old, washed up man and fat, why do all of these Amber Heard social justice warriors not care about the fat shaming? They can hear it themselves on the recording, I'm not making it up. You can just listen. There's multiple recordings with all this stuff. You can hear in one of them, Amber Heard, like a drunken lunatic, saying, "You fat old man, you think I want some of that washed up old man? Come on. Come on, it's unacceptable." And so my point being that I think that there's actually far from us being too kind to Johnny Depp or us being too hard on Amber Heard. I actually think that there's still a number of aspects of her behavior that many people have overlooked and that really have gotten a pass in the mainstream media. And we're supposed to look at her because of her age and see her at the age at which she started dating Johnny Depp and see that as a vulnerability. But it's not a vulnerability for this woman that he's in love with, that he will do anything for, to continually hang over his head the fact that he's this fat old man and she's not attracted to him and she could do better. And all the stuff that's implied on one of those tapes when she's, drunkenly running away at the mouth, as BPDs like her are wont to do. Anyway, that's one thing. And then I also wanted to say something about this Prince Harry situation. I recorded a longer video for my Patreon in which I talked about this. And so, if you want to join my Patreon, check out my videos there. I put a lot of stuff on Patreon that I don't make public, like hours of lectures and stuff. But I said on Twitter today that I am just aghast at the fact that Prince Harry has decided to go with the title of Spare for his autobiography, his memoir, because your autobiography, your memoir, it is your representation to the public, to the world, of how you see yourself. And it is very telling. And I understand it's ironic. I understand it's meant to be cheeky. I understand that other people have called him the Spare. But look at that. Look, the book cover is out. You can look at it and you can draw your own conclusions. It looks like a fucking joke to me. You've got Harry sitting, posed there with this, with this kind of resolute or sort of like, resolute or sort of grinning expression maybe. And then underneath it says Spare. To me, it's just silly. It just looks silly. I wanted to laugh. And the other thing is that it's just really sad because what he's doing is he's continuing to build his entire self-image and his entire public image around the idea that he is a victim. And the Spare thing, that is his main grievance. That is one of his primary grievances. It's the filter through which he views a lot of his experiences. You can see that. He feels like a victim, and he feels like his selfhood has been trivialized by just being the Spare. Well, Harry, you're the one who's trivializing yourself by your behavior. You're going to keep doing these press tours? You're going to go on Oprah again? Because that made you look ridiculous. That did not make you look like a fully grown adult in charge man. I mean, I'm sorry, but y'all, some of the things that he said and that Meghan Markle said and that both of them represented in that interview were lies. Severe misrepresentations. And it was a whiny interview. And this whininess just... The victim thing almost never works for anyone. And so what I would say to him is, can you come up with a different title that doesn't wallow so much in your perceived victimization, that is not a seal upon grievance as the ultimate defining trait of your life? It's very obvious what's going on here, and it's very obvious how Meghan Markle was able to get such a foothold in all of this, because she saw immediately that he's extremely aggrieved, that he feels extremely annoyed or angry, probably outraged, to be the Spare. And it's a way to get in there and manipulate him, and it's another way to get him away from his friends and family. He's lost most of his family, his friends, and probably, and his family. That's a messed up situation. And so I guess what I would say to Harry is, you're just not going to get what you want this way. I thought that you would have learned it after the disastrous Oprah interview, and now it's like you're doubling down. But this is not the way. I understand that you're angry that you were born into a life where you were not the primary character. I understand sibling rivalry, and I understand you're pissed off about your mom, but you don't have the details about your mom's situation factually correct, first of all. Okay? The reason that she was being chased, first of all, her driver was speeding. They weren't being chased, literally. And the reason that they were being, if you want to say chased by paparazzi, is because Diana had called the paparazzi because she wanted them to cover her hanging out that week with Dodi, because she was trying to make her Pakistani lover jealous. So she's the one who called the paparazzi, okay? Maybe not at that moment, but she was the one who wanted coverage of her time with Dodi Fayed. And that's what happened. And a lot of you need to come to terms with the fact that Diana was a deeply flawed human being, and that half the problems in her marriage to Charles and her issues with the royal family came from her, and also that she was a deeply flawed mother, and that in a lot of ways she messed her children up. And if you want me to start telling you the stories, I can. I've read numerous biographies and a lot about her. Okay? So, when Andrea Burkhart pointed this out today, when Diana said that the royals can have, the family can have their heir, and I'll have my spare, that was not a nice thing that she was saying about Harry, okay? What she's saying is, fine, you do as you will with that one, but this one I'm going to turn the way I want to turn him. And she did plant some unhealthy things in his head. A lot of you don't want to hear this, but I'm telling you, take an honest look at Princess Diana. Not what you see in The Crown, but take an honest look. Read some biographies. Read what people who are even friends with her said about her after she died at times, and some of this has come out in the last several years. But anyway. But yeah, that was not the right move for Harry. I understand it. I understand the sense of grievance. I understand that he feels like his life has been hijacked, by the royal family and by this thing he's been born into. But guess what? Welcome to the human condition, because very few of us were born into perfectly designed conditions. A lot of us would have chosen to be born into something else. And you know what, Harry? There's a lot of people who have chosen to be born into your situation, as problematic as and imperfect as it is. So yeah, I think Harry needs to grow up. Not saying he can't feel bad about the things that have happened to him. Not saying that he doesn't need to get therapy. We all probably need therapy. We've all got a lot to feel angry about. But this is not the way you want to be representing yourself publicly, and you're just digging the hole deeper. Anyways, so if you enjoyed any of this, if you like my channel, check out my other videos, like and subscribe. And as always, I appreciate tips. The links are below. Everybody have a good day. Bye-bye.